Let's bring in Cliff May. He's founder and president of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Welcome, Cliff. Good to see you again. President Biden's been working very hard to try to prevent a second front from opening in the north of Israel with Hezbollah. Is there any doubt in your mind that Iran is the chief decision maker here?
No, Iran is absolutely the chief decision maker. They're the puppeteer pulling the strings. They're the head of the octopus, and the tentacles include Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthi rebels you mentioned before, and maybe a dozen other terrorist groups. Iran will make the decision whether it wants to use essentially its foreign legion, Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon, against Israel at this particular time.
How do you read where Iran is coming on this? There's some speculation that Hamas may have been the first leg of this, that the plan is, in fact, to have Israel go in a ground invasion in Gaza, get bogged down, and then attack from the north as part of a really big attempt to seriously damage Israel. What do you think?
That is one real possibility. Don't forget that the mullahs who rule Iran have been saying death to Israel for 44 years since I was there as a young reporter covering the revolution. They mean it. It's just a matter of timing. But there's also this. The asset they have in Hezbollah is a very important one. It's a deterrent to Israel, which would very much like to come in and take out the nuclear weapons development program that the Islamic Republic has underway. So Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, needs to decide, am I willing to risk this asset at this time? Very hard for you and I to know how that decision is made.
Well, do you think that President Biden is doing enough to deter Iran here? You've heard, you know the attacks that some of the Iranian proxies have made, even on American facilities, and the interception of the Houthi missiles that looked like they were aimed at Israel by the American destroyer. America is edging into this. Is he doing enough to deter Iran?
You know, what does deterrence require? It requires that your adversaries recognize your capabilities and your will. I think there is doubt among the Iranians about the will of President Biden at this point. You mentioned earlier his speech that he said he would hold Iran accountable. His actual words were, we will continue to hold Iran accountable. And over the past 2 years, there is no way that the Biden administration has held the Islamic Republic of Iran accountable for anything. On the contrary, we've enriched them. The other day, there was a prohibition against missile embargo at the UN. The U.S. could have snapped back its sanctions and not allowed that. We didn't do so. So I think the will is very much in question. I think it's very important that this not be another red line and serious situation where the president says, don't, and the Iranians say, well, we're going to, and let's see what you can do. Weakness provokes enemies. If you want to stop this war from expanding, then your enemies have to know that it would be very bad for them, rather than that it's an opportunity to humiliate the Americans and destroy the Israelis.
How extensive is the cooperation, military cooperation, interaction between Russia and Iran here in these two theaters, Ukraine and Israel?
They have been, Russia and Tehran have been getting closer and closer. They're exchanging weapons. They're probably exchanging strategies. What's going on here, and there's going to be a meeting, as you know, another meeting between Xi Jinping from Beijing and Vladimir Putin. They have a relationship they call an unlimited partnership. Tehran is very much now the junior partner. There are even more junior partners like North Korea, Venezuela, the Houthi rebels, all the proxies that Iran has. So President Biden may not want a new Cold War, but a new Cold War may have an interest in him. And the most important thing in a Cold War is to prevent a hot war, and that requires, maybe paradoxically, that your enemy thinks it's a bad idea to escalate. If they think you're weak, they will come for you.
Cliff, you know, 3 administrations now, started going back to the Obama administration, then Trump, then the first couple of years of Biden, they've really attempted to disengage the U.S. From the Middle East. The idea being we need to go to, China's a much bigger adversary. We need to deal with China. And there's no denying that China is a larger, more threatening potential adversary. But is this conflict here going to drag us back into the Middle East more extensively for a long time to come, do you think?
Well, yes, probably so. Look, if we leave a vacuum, our enemies will fill it, and that's not a good thing. The Middle East is still strategically hugely important. It's, again, there's a lot of good things in Biden's speech, but he sort of implied that there's this axis of tyrannies, Beijing, Moscow, Gaza City. No, it's Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran. That's this axis of tyrannies we're looking at. And if we decide to lose or not fight on one battlefield, then this axis against us, led by China, no question about it, they will take that over. You want to be careful in a war what battlefields you decide you don't need to fight on and that you can lose.
All right. Should Republicans, in your view, support the president's request for that $105 billion for Ukraine and Israel both?
Yes, in my view, absolutely, that's necessary. Look, right now there are three places in the world that are under great threat. Right, Putin wants to subjugate the people of Ukraine. They have to look to the Kremlin and take orders from him. Xi Jinping wants to subjugate the people of Taiwan. They have to look towards the Communist Party of China and take orders. Tehran's a little different. Tehran does not want to subjugate the people of Israel. It wants to exterminate the people of Israel. We had a small Holocaust in what's called the Gaza envelope, Israel proper, on the 7th of October. There will be more of that if the Israelis don't fight this war successfully and if they don't understand who their enemies are. But we have to understand that very much as well. And yes, I do think the Republicans should support Biden and push him to do a lot more because he hasn't done enough for Ukraine. A lot of it's been a dollar late, a day short and a dollar late. I'm just saying it wrong. You know what I mean?
Right,
and
sure.
I think we do not want to lose the United States and the free world in Ukraine. We don't want to lose in the Middle East. We don't want to lose in the Indo-Pacific. We need to lead the world because the other countries that would take over that role are not good countries and are not consistent with our values or interests.
All right. Thanks, Cliff May. Appreciate it.